Hey there. Welcome to Millennium Milestone Presents, a site dedicated to storytelling in books, movies, video games, and other exciting genres, where a transfer new Black Streak is auditioning for the next reboot of Men in Tights.
Oh my god!
Sorry to take my humorous outtakings on Atreus here, but I did need to have some kind of a relief after trying to watch Disclosure Day and other movies that have kind of made me feel the way of a certain way in my stomach. But here we are now on to another movie that really made me question if I even need to watch this one, and that's The Death of Robinhood.
I am the outlaw, Robinhood.
Now, I'm not going to lie here, I was not looking eager to watching this film because I had seen the trailer, and already I was getting a certain vibe from a certain movie about maybe roughly a decade back that didn't exactly give me the same settling feelings I have here.
You take the most iconic character of the whole fucking saga, Luke Skywalker, and give him the most uneventful death known to man!
I know you're not supposed to judge a book by its cover, let alone a title, but that title leaves me with some unsettling questions in my head, so let's see if I can try to keep an open mind and find out what's this all about. The Death of Robinhood is directed by Michael Sarnoski, who is known for his other film, Pig, starring Nicolas Cage. His current movie is a bleak, dark thriller that presents a grounded and different take on the legendary figure, starring Hugh Jackman as Robin Hood, Jodie as Sister Bridget, and Bill Skarsgård as Little John. The film offers a gritty, grounded portrayal moving from traditional myth to a darker exploration of the character's past. The story centers around the legendary thief who is critically injured after a battle and finds himself in the hands of a mysterious woman and is offered a chance at salvation, navigating the space between myth and reality.
English, motherfucker, do you speak it?
In other words, it's a deconstruction of yet another mythological hero. Now, I get it. Robin Hood is a thief and steals, but at least in this, there's a caveat that's known to many that he robs from the rich, gives to the poor, which, of course, that also seems a little bit something that would sound like very Marxist, but that's a whole nother story and a whole nother avenue to talk about. What I really want to get into is that there is a legendary mythological story behind this that is being changed to mirror that of a folklore ending of Robin Hood that was written quite a number of years after the original story. In the traditional Robin Hood's death ballad that was written centuries earlier, it depicts Robin Hood seeking help for an illness from a prioress who is often treacherous. He is betrayed and fatally injured during the story. The narrative focuses on his death, his final wishes, his burial, often concluding with his famous last moments. While Sarnoski's film draws from this thematic element, it interprets it with a modern, darker sensibility and a focus on his personal journey. One of the differences I noted right away with the movie in difference to the ballad, Jodie Comer's character, Sister Bridget, represents in this movie a supposedly complex figure who provides Robin Hood with sanctuary and a chance at salvation during his final moments, contrasting with his past crimes as depicted in the movie. This portrayal is quite different from the traditional ballad where the figure of the prioress is often depicted as a perfidious and direct leading to his death. In other words, she's a treacherous person. Some interpretations also imply that Sister Bridget is a cousin of Robin Hood, though in this movie it's not even noted here at all. It just basically depicts her as being a completely different person unrelated to Robin Hood, who is now given this opportunity to help Robin Hood finish with his final moments on Earth. Now, on the surface, this does seem like a very artistic film with a substance in there. I mean, you got Hugh Jackman in this movie. That's a big name to have in your movie to really drive the point of this movie. But unfortunately, I don't think my problem is necessarily with Hugh Jackman. Hugh Jackman always carries the film very well in his depiction of whatever role he takes on. But here, the story lends itself more to the ideas of a hero giving up, or at least they're trying to depict the idea of him making peace with his past crimes. And that in itself I have a bit of a problem with. If this was a story separate from Robin Hood and this was a man that made petty crimes or maybe even was among Robin Hood's merry men that continued robbing after he was long gone, maybe this would have been a more better story to tell. You could have even done this with Little John if necessary, but I think this would have lent itself better if this was one of Robin Hood's merry men rather than being Robin Hood himself. But that's just my take on it. Also, Bill Skarsgård seems to land roles that apparently don't do him any service here. He is prominently in the beginning of this film and is used quite well, but let's just say that he doesn't exactly last very long in the film right after. So instead of the traditional ending where John is with Robin Hood in his final moments when he passes away, we get his little daughter instead. Again, I don't want to nitpick entirely on that avenue. I mean, I could understand that being an interesting take on the story, but come on. Little John is a very important part of Robin Hood, and you take him out that quickly. Now, I'm not going to come out and say there aren't any positive things about the death of Robin Hood. It does have a very interesting premise of a story here with the main character. There are side characters that actually do draw your attention too. For instance, there is the son of these villagers that Robin Hood had pillaged and robbed, friends, and killed in this one. That's something else I forgot to mention, that this movie is very brutal and violent, especially right at the beginning. And there is even a scene with this kid that unfortunately befalls him, and I'm not going to mention that, but let's just say it's very brutal. And it does come to the forefront in the rest of this movie, where he actually shows up later at the sanctuary where Robin Hood is hiding. And let's just say the story goes in a very different way than you would have expected this to go when you have one enemy versus another enemy in the same playing field. However, where there are positive points to the story, one negative I am going to question here is obviously, it says on the premise of this movie, it's talking about Robin Hood finding redemption, finding salvation. And it's through this prioress that we earlier mentioned here. Now, for those of you who don't know what a prioress does, they do a ritual or a medical ritual that's perceived back in the day to cure illnesses, which is called bloodletting, where you let out blood because it's believed that some of the blood gets contaminated and needs to be drained out to let newer blood flourish. So that's what this prioress does. But the offering of this bloodletting in this case is to do something else completely different. It's to assist Robin Hood in passing on. Now, again, I've kind of mentioned before with disclosure that I am a bit of a religious person. So for the suggestion of taking your life, I don't know if I like that for this movie. I get if perhaps Robin Hood fought valiantly to stop someone from hurting someone and died. That would have been a very nice, noble way to go. But again, this is the same thing that was done with The Last Jedi, where you had Luke Skywalker show up at the very end, seemingly to fight Kylo Ren. And what did you do in that movie? You made him a Force illusion to basically sucker Kylo into believing that he was fighting him. And that, well, let's just say that didn't go very well with a lot of fans.
Have Luke commit suicide at the end of your piece of fucking shit.
Which is dumb as shit if you're gonna kill him anyway. If he's gonna die anyway, have him die in battle.
Disney didn't kill Luke, they just shit on his character.
Now, I'll admit, comparing Robin Hood to Luke Skywalker is apples and oranges, and I get that. But my point still stands that deconstructing heroes has been a long-standing thing with Hollywood, and it's one of the things that I am going to point out every time in a movie like this. It's one of the reasons, unfortunately, for this particular movie, I'm going to give it a mid score. I am still going to say that this is still a decent story. Hugh Jackman carries the movie very well. The premise is good for the most part, but the execution of the story is what I think actually sucks about it. So mid, I think, is a fair score to give for this movie, but that's my take on it for the most part. If you guys have any comments about this that should lead me to believe that this deserves a better score than that, I'm all welcome to hear that and even change my mind if necessary. But that's kind of the premise of what I feel about this movie, The Death of Robin Hood. But hey, you tell me what you think. Like, share, and subscribe, and you... Oh, there is just one more thing I forgot to mention.